chapter 1063. It is time for the breakdown. It is just me again. I've been thinking about this chapter a lot, specifically because it feels like somewhat this long drawn out tournament, I guess. And at this point, we're finally here. We're seeing everybody go at it, because that's essentially what the Battle for Pirate King is. It's a tournament. And Oda has been setting up the pieces, right? The contestants and their rankings and where they stand. And now it's time for them to clash. Clash of the Titans. So I think this is probably, and I mean this, probably the best cover story and chapter combination ever. Is that too crazy? Where the cover story and the potential of that coincides with the chapter so well that I am legitimately interested in the cover story as much as I am in the chapter. That does not happen often, so I don't want that to be lost. I'm gonna try to keep this tight. That sounded a bit crazy, but I'm gonna try to keep it as concise as possible. I have a bunch of notes written down about things I want to touch on for sure, but I don't want to ramble. I know you guys enjoy it sometimes, but I really want to talk about the important things to this chapter. Quick disclaimer, I'm not gonna focus too much on what happens with Luffy and those guys. I'm gonna talk about it, obviously, but there's so many other things, right? Because that's pretty straightforward. We're gonna throw out some theories about what's going on there, but the crux of this is gonna revolve around Blackbeard, the possible outcomes, devil fruits, and of course the cover story. So without further ado, now's the time to subscribe so you don't miss out on anything going forward, right? Because we're in the end game, okay? So let's lock in, look down, make sure you are subscribed because YouTube be tripping, and let's get on with it, okay? So chapter 1063, the only family I've got. As we see in the cover story, Cracker got folded. He got cracked by Aokiji. For the people that did not feel like it was Aokiji, I don't think you guys were necessarily uber wrong. I mean, you were wrong, but I get it. I get why you would say it. It's just because Cacao Island is not Whole Cake Island where they were, and so it would not make sense. And Caesar, what he was doing, he was cowering when the others came by. He was not out in the open just throwing things. No, he was hiding in an alley. When he saw the vent smoke, then he jumped out to save them, and then they left. So here, enough about what wasn't. Let's talk about what was. Cracker more than likely stumbled upon Aokiji. Let's go back a bit to Aokiji basically freezing civilians. Oh man, that's not becoming of someone like Aokiji. Regardless of what you think about Aokiji, he said to Smoker, no matter what, I'm still me. So I guarantee you, none of these people are dead. And something we want to dispel as well is comparing Cracker to Doflamingo. Listen, I'm a Doflamingo stan. You guys know that. But Aokiji, when he went against Doflamingo, that was a warning shot, because people are using this to say, well, that confirms Doflamingo over Cracker. I think Doflamingo's stronger than Cracker, but this does not confirm anything in my opinion, because that was a warning shot to Doflamingo. For this, Aokiji can freeze you to the bone. Anyone that can fight Akainu with one of the, if not the highest offensive devil fruit in the series, mentioned by Oda, if he can fight someone like that for 10 days, he can freeze you to the bone where you cannot get out of it. And Doflamingo, to his credit, has Conqueror's Haki, but he has uber control over his devil fruit. This outcome is not surprising. Now, how Cracker looks here, it looks like he was beaten into submission. He's reaching out as if he's either trying to crawl away, asking for help, but he's no longer fighting back. Like if he was frozen by surprise or something. Doesn't seem like that was the case. It seems like Aokiji beat him into submission, then he tried to crawl and Aokiji froze him and walked away. So this was no contest in my opinion. Now, why is Aokiji doing this? Well, we can speculate that he's just running an errand for Blackbeard because they're working together, but they don't trust each other. So what's changed? Why now? Why so radical going to Whole Cake Island and kidnapping this young girl that has the 3 eyes who can possibly transcribe the poneglyphs? Let's think about what happened. What's happened? Well, recently, someone was apprehended by Blackbeard, the Pink Mamba, Kobe. What that means is, did Blackbeard figure out that there's a secret organization? Does he know about Sword? Does Sword have a leak? So therefore, he's using Kobe as leverage against Aokiji. If Aokiji more than likely is a part of that organization, then what? Did this force Aokiji into action? Because Blackbeard now has a lot of leverage over him. Because again, they do not trust each other. Blackbeard mentioned this in Dressrosa, saying, I know better. So it's a Cold War. Blackbeard understands that Aokiji and who he was, so he's not an idiot. He's like, okay, he's gonna come work with me. He's probably trying to get closer to my organization than take me down. Let me get some leverage against him. This is just speculation, but it would make a ton of sense. The main thing to take away here is that Blackbeard is now in possession of someone that could transcribe poneglyphs, we presume. Oda did not throw this into the story for no reason. I've been talking about this for so long, saying how Nico Robin is not as valuable as she once was, considering Oda sprinkling bits and pieces of information of other people that are able to do what Nico Robin can do. Of course, no one is Robin, because she can literally read and interpret what she's reading to a T, because she's an historian. She's from Ohara. but there are other ways to do things. Not sure if you guys have heard about the theory that Killer himself is a member of the Three-Eyed Tribe. Maybe that's something we can delve into in another video, but think about that. That's why Law is the outlier here, and we'll get to him because there's no known or speculative way where he could ever even understand what the Poneglyphs are saying. So as much ado about nothing, and I always thought Law would go back to the Straw Hats because that was a dead end. But we'll get back to that. With the cover story, before we move away from it, Brûlée is one of the devil fruits that I talked about. Could possibly be acquired by the Blackbeard Pirates because it makes travel somewhat seamless. You can infiltrate pretty easily. Blackbeard may be one-upped by getting the fruit that he did, well, Van Augur. But Brûlée more than likely was in the mirror world, watching everything go down. It would not be surprising if what happened was Cracker saw Brûlée in the mirror and told her to stay in there, and then he was frozen over while Brûlée was looking at him. That's possible. Because at the end of the day, as insane as Big Mom seems to be from time to time, the kids, it seems like they care about each other. Either way, Whole Cake Island is devastated. The Big Mom pirates, they're done. Yes, we're still not sure what's going on with Big Mom. She could be dead. She could be on the way back. I firmly believe that she's not dead. Let me stop saying that. She's probably on the way back to Whole Cake Island. When she comes back, Cacao Island frozen over, the Germa gone, she might just lose it. I'm not saying we see Big Mom again in Elbaf. That would be just, ugh. But everything she's built is crumbling, and mainly it's her own fault. Anyway, let's get to the rest of the chapter now. Or I guess let's start the chapter. Definitely references to Astro Boy going on here. Luffy's fit is not my favorite. What's insane is that Luffy has on the SSG merch. So I'm not sure if Rob Lucci and them, when they show up, Luffy covers his head, hides his straw hat that they don't recognize as him. But having on SSG merch is crazy. I hate his shoes though. I do not like his shoes. They look like something Kanye would wear. And right now is probably not the best time to do that. Would not be surprised if they have some compression system where they can float or they feel really light. Probably like moon boots, right? Because of Vegapunk and his ties to the moon would not be surprising at all, especially on Egghead. Came to me as well is imagine, right? With Vegapunk being 500 years into the future, do you guys think Vegapunk could have something like a hyperbolic time chamber in Egghead where you could go there and either train and get better? It's far-fetched, but it's just something that came to me while I was reading through the chapter several times. Like, would that be crazy for him to have something or a place in which time doesn't move the same way? I don't know, this One Piece, so don't want to get too far off. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Jinbei here. I didn't talk about it in my review, but Jinbei had some of the best moments in the chapter. Funniest moments. Well, first off, we see the fits that Luffy and Bonnie got. Them freaking Jinbei, he gets his Hawaiian shirt, right? Bro, Jinbei is so perfect because he's the elder statesman of the crew. Always calm, always collected, and looks like he's on a vacation, right? It's a tropical island, I guess. But also when they talked about how their bellies were bulging, and Jinbei's like, well, mine was already like that. That's not anything excessive. That's just me. It's so funny because you can just hear him say, and it's not a joke. It's just, bro, mine was already like that. I love it, man. I'm really happy Jinbei is with us now. Those assistants that came out of nowhere, they're going to be very important, I think, going forward in the arc because of how much they aid Vegapunk and maybe who they're mimicking after, or maybe who they're mimicked after. We have to wait and see, but they're going to be very important. Oda did not throw them in there for no reason. What Bonnie's doing is instinct. She probably knows it's not her father, but at the end of the day, she's seeing someone trying to attack someone that looks just like her dad. I like that Oda clarified to the Straw Hats using Bonnie that, hey, this is my father. And it happened a lot sooner than I thought because I meant to talk about it, didn't get a chance to in my last breakdown or discussion, but sometimes Oda let these things linger and they find out just inexplicably. The next chapter, Oda confirmed to the Straw Hats Bonnie's dad is Kuma. And just off of her emotion, you see how much she cares about her father. And something we gotta say, Oda's best idea was the Supernova. The Supernova are not a lot of people's favorite characters. I guess for me they are. Law, Zoro, two of my favorite characters. But man, how Oda has seamlessly incorporated these characters that he came up with on a whim, how he's done it is so great for the story. And I think partially the reason why One Piece has gone on for so long, because every single arc, you're incorporating them in some way. And of course, they're aiding Luffy where they started off as somewhat rivals, and they ultimately end up aiding Luffy, but not all of them, right? You have people like Hawkins, who he's just based off of percentages. How likely am I to survive? Apu, he's just a trickster. But you have the likes of Law, Kid, Killer, Capone. They have their own motives, but even though it doesn't feel like they have a chance to become the Pirate King, they don't have to. This is just amazing writing. Back then when I used to think about it, I'm like, man, Oda, why don't you make it seem like any of these guys have a chance? Because logically, he'd be treating us like idiots. We know Luffy is a cut above the rest. You have others that are somewhat in his vicinity, like Kid and Law, but Luffy is a cut above. So I'm not even gonna try to make it seem like Bonnie or Rouge or Capone has a chance here, because they don't. But how can they help the Straw Hats? who do. And ultimately, the Straw Hats are competing against the Blackbeard Pirates, who are slightly ahead. I mean, I think the gap has closed a bit, but after this chapter, I'm like, man, how big is the gap, if there is any? We'll talk about it. The final act. We see Zehahaha, we go Zehahaha, because you know things are gonna happen. I think one of my favorite things about Blackbeard showing up is that he doesn't want peace. He wants problems, always. There's never a time where I see Blackbeard, I'm like, oh, he's just chilling. No, he's always about that action. This chapter, he's about that action. The crazy thing here is, if you guys look closely, you see some hockey oozing here. And for long, he's in a submarine. How did they notice him? I don't know, but they were hit before. And the crazy part is that they're like, okay, we gotta go up. We have to surface, but what about the range of Doc Q's Devil Fruit? The Sick no Me. And obviously, this whole moment was strictly fan service to make female law canon. Why would that be the first plague or first sickness you use? I mean, I love it, but it's fan service. And quickly about hockey, because I think this needs its own video to just show the evolution of such. But we've always known Devil Fruits can be countered. This was shown in Wano when Law tried to move Big Mom and Kaido. You could go back to Punk Hazard with him and Virgo. There are ways Oda threw it in there, and now as the story's wrapping up, even if you go back to the Marineford War, things make so much more sense. But I still think there's more to go in regards to hockey and the explanation of such, but it's great to see Law being in a position where he has enough hockey where he can counter a Devil Fruit power. But it seems like he had to focus for a bit and really expend a lot of his hockey. Not saying he's drained it, but it's not at rest like Big Mom and Kaido. He's not at that level yet. And here's the thing about bounties. Bounties, they're very misleading. And we know the people that have fraudulent bounties. Maybe that's something we'll talk about one day. Oda uses bounty to justify things. Whereas for Law, being able to nullify a Devil Fruit power shows some growth. And it's like, well, he's worth 3 billion, so that makes sense. It's not necessarily a strength thing, but I think it's just an overall utility, usefulness, and of course, danger. Because strength can be manifested in so many ways in One Piece. Look at Nico Robin. You would not know her true strength by looking at her bounty. You may think she's a powerhouse that's close to right hands. Not necessarily. Her strength is with what she can do in regards to poneglyphs. But another genius system in One Piece. There's a reason why One Piece has been on top for so long. There are a lot of things in here that's just been, you can't even fathom thinking about this. It's asinine. But let's get back to it. The Doc Q setup is perfect. Someone with the sick fruit going against a surgeon. So Doc Q says that that's how diseases go, right? An antibody always comes along. One person will find a remedy. It's not long before everyone's cured. If this isn't blatant setup for Chopper versus Doc Q, I don't know what is. And Doc Q, I mean, I feel like the Blackbeard Pirates is comprised of perverts. Doc Q, I think, is definitely one for having the Milady transformation. We know Vasco Shot is one for sure. And Katarina Devon, how she was looking at Boy Hancock, we kind of understand what she likes. Something we're going to talk through, not this video because I don't want to get off the cuff, but these Devil Fruits are being revealed now. How many of you feel that it's possible that they already had their Devil Fruits and this isn't as recent? Just want you to think about it. I'm going to think through it. In the discussion the other day, we did talk about it and it seemed like, okay, it should be recent. But then shout out to my guy Shanks R123 who brought it to my attention. Hey, maybe they already had their Devil Fruits when they were introduced, but we'll talk about it. But give me your thoughts as to what. But give me your thoughts as to why or why not you think that doesn't make sense. For Burgess, people mentioned him swimming in Dressrosa. He was never swimming in Dressrosa. He did fall into the water, but he was holding on to something. You have to wait and see. But I want to hear you guys' thoughts on that. The Devil Fruits are pretty simple though. Buff Fruit, Warp Fruit, and Mythical Zone Pegasus. That Sick Fruit might be a bit more complex, but that's strictly setting up for Chopper, I think. However, it's great that it's showing as valuable as these people are for Blackbeard, Law can do everything they can do. For the most part, Law can do some pretty sick shit with his Devil Fruit. But the powers are insane on their own, and then Blackbeard is there. I want you guys to understand something. As much as I'm scared for Law, I'm calm because I understand that a bunch of things can't happen. One thing that can't happen is Law can't die. Not time. Doesn't feel like the right time. And it feels way too similar to Ace getting jumped. Well, Ace went after them, but Law still has his crew. And I've made several videos talking about how just atrocious Law's crew is. But Oda is going to use this moment, I think, more and more I think about it, to show how useful Law's crew is to him. Where individually, I don't think they're anything, but when it comes to Law, I believe they can hold their own in regards to defending him. I'm starting to think that Oda will use this moment to highlight just how Law's crew can be useful and they're not the shit show that we think they are. Ultimately, I think Blackbeard does take the rubbing, but I think Law will be fine. His crew will show its usefulness. I'm starting to think that because it's too overwhelming. Law is considered a Yonko candidate. And if you can't stop another Yonko, not even half of his crew, what value do you have? And I'm sure Law, after fighting Big Mom and Kaido, this isn't as scary, but it's still a very difficult situation. Now, Blackbeard was laying in wait for Law. Well, not for Law specifically. He was waiting. He had no idea who was going to show up, but he knew one of them would. But the thing is, Blackbeard knew that there was a poneglyph in Wano. I mean, I guess it makes sense. The most logical spot. Yonko was there, so Yonko should have a road poneglyph. Makes sense. And this is probably the easiest route. I'm just going to wait for one of these guys to leave Wano. More than likely, they got a rubbing. Not sure who's going to show up, but it's funny. Law thought he won the coin flip, right? It was like, I have the straightest path. Well, Blackbeard is in the way of that. And it's so funny if you play video games or just stories in general, the easiest path is the easiest path on paper for a reason. The straight path, oh yeah, straight through. But what's there? Well, just another Yonko of the sea with some of his crewmates with sick devil fruits. I like Law's tenacity here, right? He's saying winner takes all, and Law is not nearly as shook of the Yonko as he was in Punk Hazard. He's grown a lot, and as scary as Blackbeard is, seeing two members of the worst generation clash here at this point, again, the tournament of power has started. The tournament of kings has begun. Who's gonna come out on top? We assume it to be Luffy, and Law, in my opinion, doesn't really have a chance technically, but this is an opportunity for Oda to show how useful Law's crew can be. There's more I want to say, but we've gone long enough. Guys, give me your thoughts. What's the outcome? Who wins? How does Law get out of this? And then ultimately, what is the purpose of it? Fantastic chapter. Always want to highlight the cover art by Gracia. She's amazing. And at Yash on Twitter as well. Both did a fantastic job with coloring from this chapter. So guys, again, give me your thoughts. Make sure to like the video if you did. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Follow me on Twitter at BragoDAce. Follow me on Instagram at BragoD.ace. Thank you to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you to my members. I appreciate you guys so much. Again, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Okay, I start doubting me, I felt lost. I rewrite